Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Lauren, and today I am going to be doing a tour of my physical TBR. About a year ago, well, a little bit less than a year ago actually, I did a full bookshelf tour. It was right after I had moved into this space. That tour did include my physical TBR books as well. However, I went through them pretty quickly, a lot more quickly than I would have liked to, because I didn't want that video to be just insanely long. I would say about 2/3 of my TBR are books that I own, are on my physical TBR. If you were curious about the other, about third of those books, you can follow the link in the video description box down below, of course, to my Goodreads to be read list and see my TBR in its entirety. So feel free to head over there and check those out if you're interested. I think that is it as far as an introduction goes. Let's just jump right in and look at all of the books on my physical TBR. Okay, so these top 4 shelves, these are all of my physical TBR books. Going a little bit more closely and kind of give you a quick pan of these. This top shelf on the left here, these are books that are on my TBR, but they are not actually in my TBR star jars. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but that's what these are. Over here we have the beginning of books that are on my TBR and in my star jars, and they are in alphabetical order, starting with Afterworld. Then they continue down here with Grime, across, all the way down to You Feel It Below the Ribs. So let's go in one by one and I'll talk about each shelf individually. All right, so like I said, these are all books that are obviously on my TBR, but they are not in my TBR star jars. And the reason for that is that I'm just not in a hurry to read any of these for various reasons. So I'll just go through these very quickly and tell you a little bit more about them and why I'm not in a big rush to read them. First up is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I bought this book because I think that the cover is really cool looking. I love the cover design. Battle of the Linguist Mages. I bought this for a shopping video that I did and put it up against a couple of other books, and another book won. So this kind of just went onto the back burner. The next one is The Birthday of the World, short story collection by Ursula K. Le Guin. This was a random purchase. I just like the way that Ursula K. Le Guin writes. Blindness, also kind of a cover buy, though I know this is a little bit of a modern classic. There are just like barely any paragraph breaks. There are paragraph breaks, but very, very few. This is incredibly dense, and so I'm definitely not in a hurry to read it. Book of Coley, I'm honestly not entirely sure why it wound up on this shelf. I guess maybe I've lost a little bit of excitement over it, but I don't really want to get rid of it though. Same with Blindsight, both of those, just like, I want them, I want to read them, I want to keep them, but just not in a hurry. Changing Plans, another Ursula K. Le Guin, same thing, just sort of collecting books by her because I love the way that she writes. The Cruel Stars, this one, I honestly may move this back onto my regular shelves. I do want to read this. This is a sci-fi novel, and I think it has pretty good ratings, so it may eventually like make its way back into my regular TBR. The Devil Takes You Home, a book that I got from Book of the Month. Sounds interesting, but just not particularly interested in reading it right now. The Dispossessed, another Ursula K. Le Guin. I apparently have issues of I'm collecting her books and not reading them, which just talking about that right now makes me realize I need to do something about that. I should read at least one. East of Eden I got pretty recently. I ordered another copy of this book for my mother for Christmas, and I was worried that it wouldn't get here in time, so I ordered a second one. This one did in fact come late, so I'm glad I got the second copy. First 15 Lives of Harry August. To be quite frank, I'm not particularly interested in this book. I've just been told so many times that it's so great and I need to read it that it prevents me from getting rid of it. The Futurological Congress, this actually belongs to my husband, but he says it's a pretty weird book and thinks that I might like it, so I will read this eventually. And this cover is just so silly, I can't with it. Like, yeah, I just think it's a really funny book and I'm excited to get to it. Instinct, I got this on Book Outlet. I can't even remember what it's about. It was really kind of a cover buy. I'm not sure why it's on the shelf. It must have been something in the synopsis that I didn't find particularly interesting. The Language of Thorns, I've actually read, let's see, I've read about a third of this book, and I mean, it is absolutely stunning. The illustrations in it are really, really beautiful. Yeah, they're just kind of like, I would say like middle grade stories, which aren't really, I'm not super interested in, but the book itself is beautiful. Leviathan Wakes, this I have the, whatever it is, the 10th anniversary edition. But I've hung on to this because I think it'll be more comfortable to read, and since the other one is an anniversary edition, I don't want to damage it as I read it. I haven't jumped into it yet because I know this is a very long series. This book is a very long book. Left Hand of Darkness, another Ursula K. Le Guin book, which I actually think I did read this a very long time ago, but I don't remember it. Next is Let the Right One In. This, I don't know, this may actually end up moving to my regular TBR shelves. I've seen the original movie of this, the Icelandic version of this movie, the original one, and it is so good. And I also recently read a book by this author that if you saw my last video, you'll know that it was one of my favorite books that I've read since I started my channel. So I might need to promote this to my regular physical TBR. Light from Other Stars. This is a book that came in a book box, and it's, I think, kind of a soft sci-fi. It sounds okay to me. It sounds good enough to keep, but not really. I'm just not in a hurry to read it. Same with More Ado. Came in a book box. It has a beautiful cover, but I had never heard of it until I got it in that book box, so I'm not like dying to get to it or anything. All right, so then we have Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. I've read a couple of Neil Gaiman books and kind of hit or miss results. I think that his writing is okay, but I think that this cover is very, very beautiful, and I don't know. I'm curious to see if maybe this one is the one for me. The premise sounds really interesting. Oryx and Crake. This, this is a Margaret Atwood book, which one of my favorite books is The Handmaid's Tale. And this is kind of a dystopian story as well, but just not in a hurry to get to it. The Outside. This was a random purchase. This sounds like a pretty interesting like sci-fi novel, but nothing that I'm in any hurry to get to. Radiance. Catherine Involante. I've read a couple books by Catherine Involante. She is an absolutely incredible writer. This book, from what I understand, can be a little nonsensical for some people, so I've been a little bit hesitant to get to it, but this is like my favorite version of the Radiance cover, so I'm very excited to own it. The Raven was a random purchase off of Book Outlet. I guess it says it's post-apocalyptic thriller from the modern master of horror and suspense. I don't know. Sounds kind of interesting, I guess. Strange the Dreamer. This is just a generally well-loved fantasy novel, and I saw it on Book Outlet for like a few dollars, and I had enough curiosity in me to buy it, but I don't know that I'll be reading it anytime soon, but it is a really beautiful book. And then we've got The Tread of Angels. This was also a book box book. Sounds pretty interesting, but nothing I'm in a hurry to get to. All right, so one shelf over to the right is a start of the physical TBR books that are in my Star Jar, books that you will eventually see me draw. All of these if you watch my channel and interested in it long enough. So we start with Afterworld. Like I said, these are all in alphabetical order, so starting with A, of course. This is a book that I got from a book box. Apartment is a literary novel that I bought from Book Outlet. Really, it was a cover buy. I don't read a ton of literary. I read a little bit of literary, but this is, yeah, honest to goodness cover by. There's something about this cover I think is super duper cool. Archetype. I got this in a book box as well. The Atlas Paradox. I bought this for myself last year, but ran out of time during the year to get to it. Hopefully I'm going to get to it this year though. The Big Over Easy. This is funny. I actually very recently bought this. I saw it randomly in the sales section at my local bookstore. I am a big fan of Jasper Fforde, and this is supposed to be pretty funny and satirical, but whenever I saw it in the sales section, I had to have it. It was only a few dollars. Bird Box, of course. I am a big Josh Malerman fan. I wasn't planning on reading this book because I had seen the movie, but I have had so many people tell me that it is such a great book, and if I like Josh Malerman, then I really need to read this book. So I thought, hey, why not? I'm gonna get it. So I got it. Body of Stars. This was a random purchase off of Book Outlet. I really liked the cover, and it had an interesting synopsis. Break the Bodies, Haunt the Bones. This, I mentioned it in my my original bookshelf tour. This is one I'm most looking forward to. There's something about this cover that I think is really cool, and the synopsis sounds really interesting. A Brightness Long Ago, Guy Gabriel Kay. I read Tigana not too long ago, and I enjoyed it. It has a little bit challenging of a writing style, but I liked it enough that it makes me really interested to read another book by this author. The Broken Girls, Simone St. James. I've only ever read one Simone St. James. It was The Sundown Motel, I think, and really, really liked it. So now I have this book On my TBR, bubblegum, a recent purchase. This is a scratch and sniff cover that actually smells like bubblegum. I didn't realize it until I was trying to clean some of these scuff marks off of here. And as I was rubbing it, I was like, it smells like gum in here. And it's because that's a scratch and sniff cover. Pretty cool. I'd never seen anything like that before. We've got The Cabin at the End of the World, which is supposed to be a really fun, like sort of thriller-ish book, I think. The Chosen Ones was in a book box. I've only ever read like a couple other books by Veronica Roth, like the Divergent series. That's it. But I really like the Divergent series, so I'll be curious to read a book by her that is not in the Divergent series. We've got The Chrysalids. This is an OG like dystopian novel. Tiny little one. Commonwealth by Anne Patchett, a literary novel. Not my usual fare, but there is something about this cover and about the synopsis that really hooked me. So hopefully I enjoy it whenever I get to it. The Country Life. Bought this purely because it has a horse's tiny on it. I don't know what it was about this that really appealed to me, but it did. Crossings. This, why did I get this? I think it's supposed to have a pretty interesting story. I feel like I've heard a lot of people talk about this and how fun it was, so that's why I decided to pick this one up. Daughter of the Forest. I have heard this is just an incredible book, an incredible series. I have a friend who absolutely loves this, so I saw this on Book Outlet and had to have it. Same with Dawn, very well-loved sci-fi novel. Female hard sci-fi writers seem to be pretty few and far in between, so really looking forward to giving this one a go. Dead Lies Dreaming. This was a random purchase off of Book Outlet. It seems like it's going to be kind of satirical, pretty fun, and I really like the cover. Dear Cyborgs was a book box purchase. Yeah, not a lot to say about that. The Deep Sky. This is a fairly new release, I think. It's like a soft sci-fi, if I'm not mistaken. Discount Armageddon. This is the first in the Encrypted series by Shauna McGuire. It's supposed to be a lot of fun. Sounded interesting to me. I think it's kind of like an urban fantasy series. So I got that off of Amazon. The Drawing of the Three. I have The Gunslinger in the next shelf over to the left, I think. And then obviously this here. These are actually, technically speaking, these are my husband's books, but I really want to read them, so threw them up on my shelves. The Endless Vessel, another new release, and this one is a signed first edition, which is pretty cool. The synopsis, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I know that it just like whenever I first saw it was coming out and read the synopsis, it had me very intrigued, and that's a really beautiful book. The Feed is a book box book. I think kind of like a dystopian novel. And then Fireborn, another one of those kind of books that I wasn't particularly interested in reading, but I've heard so many people gush about it. Then I saw it at a good price and decided to just pull the trigger. All right, and then one shelf down to the left, we start with the book Grime. This sounded really interesting to me. I'd never heard it before. It's a translation. I'm pretty sure it's a German translation. And I think it's like a dystopian novel. Next is The Grip of It, one of my most anticipated reads. I've heard this is a pretty strange novel. I love strange novels. Here it is. Next, we've got The Gunslinger, the first in the Dark Tower series. Hopefully I'll get to this sooner rather than later. This is supposed to be an excellent series. Everyone has read it but me. The Haunting of Hill House. I bought this, man, a couple years ago as a birthday gift to myself. It has black sprayed edges. I mean, I think that's so cool. I just haven't been able to work it in. Every time Halloween has rolled around, I'm like, I'm gonna read this for Halloween and then never do it. But maybe this will be the year. Maybe this Halloween will be the year that I finally get to it. Next is Hell Sands, a plot focused around a font. I couldn't resist. I'm a graphic designer, so I can't help but buy these types of books. How High We Go in the Dark. I found this on Book Outlet at a good price. Sounds really interesting to me, and this cover I think is absolutely stunning. The Hunger, pretty sure that one's about cannibalism. Hopefully it's thrilling and excellent. In the Quick, a novel that I was on the fence about, finally pulled the trigger on. I've heard a lot of good things about this book, so hopefully I will enjoy it as well. John Dies at the End. This is the second book that I have purchased by Jason Pargin. Seems like it should be a pretty fun time. He writes a lot of satire. Next we have A Journey to the Center of the Earth. This was a gift from my mom for Christmas. Very beautiful, like hardcover book with the gold sprayed edges. My mom says she really liked this when she was a kid, and I thought that was a very very thoughtful gift, and look forward to getting to that. Next is The King of Crows, the next book in the Diviner series. I absolutely love the Diviners. I think this might be the final book in the Diviner series. Next is The Last Wish. This is the first book in the Witcher series. I really like The Witcher, the TV show. In fact, liked it so much that I decided that I wanted to give the book series a shot, so I picked that guy up. Next is Leech. I think this is kind of a horror, like a gothic horror, sci-fi-ish maybe story, and it has a super cool cover. People seem to really enjoy it. Legends and Lattes. This was accidentally sent to me by Book Outlet. I didn't intentionally order it, but they sent it to me anyway. I guess they were overstocked or something. I'm not particularly interested in reading this, but it has gotten rave reviews, so who knows. Next is Lesser Known Monsters of the 20th Century. This was like a blind date with a book purchase, and I read the first story in here and really enjoyed it. Little Disasters. This was in the same video where I did a shopping trip and put books up against each other. This sounded interesting and more of like sort of a contemporary, maybe a little bit literary, but really more of a contemporary kind of story. Lone Women by Victor Levi. I can't remember what the other book was that I read by him, but I really liked his writing style. So whenever I saw this on Book of the Month, I decided to pick it up and read another book by him. Next is Mapping the Interior. I've only ever read one other book by Stephen Graham Jones, but I liked his writing style. I wanted to pick up another book by him, and this is just a short little one, so be curious to see what I think about that one. Meet Me in Another Life. I think this is like I think it's a little bit of a love story, but really it has like time travel or dimension travel or something. Not something I would generally go for, but I have a lot of friends who really liked it, so I thought, hey, I'll give it a shot. Mouthful of Birds, a short story collection by Samantha Schweblin. I read Fever Dream recently, and though the story I thought was okay, I really liked her writing style, so I am very much looking forward to getting to that one. My Murder. This came in a book box. I can't remember what it's about, but it has an interesting cover, so hopefully I enjoy it. Actually, these next two as well, The Ninth Metal and Nor, came in book boxes. The Ninth Metal, sci-fi about some rare metal that's discovered or something, and then Nor, I can't remember what it's about, but it's by Nadia Korafor, who wrote the Benti series, which I really enjoyed. Una Out of Order, random purchase off of Book Outlet. Also not my general fare, but it has like a kind of a time travel-y sort of thing to it. Ordinary Monsters. This was purely a cover buy. It's gotten mixed reviews, but I keep seeing this cover everywhere, and whenever I saw it on Book Outlet for like $5, I could not resist it. Other Terrors is a horror short story collection with a gorgeous cover. I love horror. I'm getting to where I really enjoy reading a good short story collection, so hopefully this one works out for me. And then we've got Our Crooked Hearts. I'm really looking forward to this one. I can't remember what it's about, but I really like this cover. There's something kind of ominous about it. Just like the creepy gold bunny and then the navy blue and the hot pink on top of it. All right, and then one shelf over to the right, the final shelf, we've got The Far Left, Pinata. I think this is a horror novel that sounded really interesting to me. Peculiar Peril, a Jeff Vandermeer book that's been on my TBR for a while. I keep thinking I'm gonna pull this any day. I think this is a young adult novel and has a really beautiful cover. Reprieve is one that I think I am most looking forward to getting to, as well as The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. This is a graphic novel series. I love the TV show The Sandman. It's probably one of my favorite TV shows. I love it so much that I decided to go on ahead and get the first in the book series. The Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. I read Station 11 a couple years ago and really liked it, really liked her writing style, so decided to pick this one up. Severance came from Book of the Month. I'd seen this book around for a long time, but didn't realize that it was like a pandemic dystopian story when it sounded really interesting to me, so I just sort of randomly grabbed it. Shadow of the Wind. This is a very, very well-loved, like, magical realism novel. I'd been kind of teetering on whether or not I wanted to read it or not, but finally pulled the trigger. Shape of Darkness. I think this is kind of a gothic thriller sort of novel. Kind of a cover purchase, but it's had an interesting synopsis, so picked it up from Book Outlet, as well as The Shimmering State, another just random Book Outlet purchase, kind of a cover buy, but sounded interesting. Sign Here, another Book of the Month purchase. This is supposed to be kind of funny. I don't know, it sounded like something I might like. Signal Fires, Danny Shapiro. This is absolutely a cover buy. I can't remember what it's even about. Hopefully I like it whenever I get to it, but I think it's stunning. The Silence by Tim Levin. I read another book by him a while back and really liked it. It was kind of like creature horror, so to speak. Not exactly creature horror, but you know, had creatures and things in it, kind of a creepy book. Spin a Black Yarn, Josh Malerman. I think this might be like a short story collection. Oh yeah, novellas. I've been collecting Josh Malerman books because I really, really like his writing style. And that just kind of looked interesting to me. Spirits Up, another book that I'm like, when am I ever going to draw this? This has been on my TBR in my TBR Star Jar forever. Starling House. This is another book of the month book. Thinner than I thought it would be, but this is more of a cover purchase for me. I mean, look at that cover. It is absolutely stunning. We've got Starter Villain. This, I think, is kind of a satirical novel. I mean, a cat in a business suit, like, kind of silly, but I think it looks funny. Stringers. This is a sci-fi novel I got on Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative upon her recommendation. This is supposed to be a really funny, fun book. The Unchosen, not my usual fare. It's a young adult kind of urban fantasy story, I think. I might like it though. I really liked the cover. I think it's like a really striking cover, so that's why I ultimately picked it up. Untold Night and Day. This was a random one that I saw in Book Outlet, and a very skinny little book. Sounded interesting. Also, I think kind of a magical realism story. Users. This came in a book box as well. I can't remember what it's about. I think it has something to do with VR maybe. Then we've got Verge, a short story collection. I think this is a pretty literary short story collection. I love this cover so much. This might be one of my favorite covers that I own. There's just something that just like really grabs me about it. I think it's really cool. The Very Nice Box. This was a pretty random purchase for me as well. I think this is kind of a satirical novel. I love satire. We've got Walk the Vanished Earth. This, I pulled it in a different month and did not get around to it, but hopefully I'll be able to work it in at some point this year. We Are Where the Nightmares Go. Another book box book I haven't gotten to yet. I just like horror short stories, which appeals to me. I think that sounds like an interesting thing to read. We've got When Things Get Dark. This is a collection of stories that are inspired by Shirley Jackson. Love Shirley Jackson. So I'm really curious to see what like all of these authors, how they sort of interpreted Shirley Jackson style in the stories that they wrote that have been compiled into this book. The Wind Up Bird Chronicles. I have never read a Haruki Murakami book. I think he's kind of does a lot of magical realism stuff, and this cover like really grabbed me, so I picked this one up. And then finally we've got You Feel It Just Below the Ribs. This was a book box book, and just a really interesting cover, I think, with like this gold foiling on here and like the little gray like watercolor ribs. This I think might be kind of a soft sci-fi, though I can't remember for sure exactly, but very interesting looking book to me. All right, so that is going to be it. Those are all of the books on my physical TBR. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please talk to me about it in the comments down below. If you have any thoughts on this, anything you found particularly interesting, or books that you think that I really need to prioritize, I would love to talk to you about it. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will like it and possibly subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.